welcome. I want to welcome you to yet another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. It's your boy Jalen. And I know, if you don't follow me on social media, you're probably thinking to yourself, first of all, if you don't follow me on social media, why do you not follow me on social media? Like, come on, bro. My IG is, I'm saying though, IMSAYINTHOU. My Twitter is, yes, I'm from DC. And Facebook is, I guess it's just Jalen Hunter. I don't know. But for people that don't follow me on social media, and you're probably thinking, and that do listen to the podcast, first of all, thank you. But you're probably thinking to yourself, dog, where's the episode? I usually drop on Mondays at 9 o'clock. Yes. However, that 9 o'clock slot was kind of heavy yesterday with the national championship. Look, I understand that the national championship is in the Midwest. Was in the Midwest this year. I don't remember where it is, but I know it was in the Midwest. However, why did it start on the East Coast at 9:20 at night? Like it. That's one thing that the women's national championship. They're right. That don't start at 5. Yes, I don't expect the national championship to start at 5 o'clock for men's on a Monday, but you could start that joint at 7. Like, come on, dog. But I digress. Again, this is the Unpopular Podcast, and I thank you guys for listening. You know, so the national championship, both national championships was Sunday and yesterday. And watching both of them really showed me something. And it showed me that there are levels to this when it comes to basketball. There are players that are great. There are players that are good. There are players that are okay. They're decent. And there are players that are just trash. You look at teams like Duke. Or you look at teams like Marquette. You look at teams like Murray State. They have a great player. Some of them have, like Duke. Duke has great players. You have Zion Williamson. You have R.J. Barrett. You have Cam Reddish. Those are great players. Murray State, you have Ja Morant. Great player. Marquette, you have Marcus Howard. Great player. Great scorer. Then you have teams that don't have a great player but have really good players. And a team full of good players. Michigan State. Virginia. Texas Tech. Auburn. For people that didn't watch, Virginia beat Texas Tech 85-77 yesterday for the national championship. And when you look at their team, when you look at both teams, both teams are stacked, but not in the way that you would think. Not one player on Virginia or Texas Tech is even close to being as good as Zion Williamson is, or as good as R.J. Barrett is, or as good as Ja Morant is. Yes, DeAndre Hunter from Virginia will be going to the draft, and he's probably going top 10. But he's not really a great player. He's a solid player for the NBA. He's not like a Zion Williamson who can change your franchise, who will probably change your franchise. He's not, and this is DeAndre Hunter, he's not a player like Ja Morant who just jumps off the screen. He's not a player like R.J. Barrett who can control the offense. DeAndre Hunter's a good player, a really good player. Look at Jared Culver. I don't know how to say his last name. From Texas Tech. His stock rose exponentially. I think I said that right. Exponentially. during this tournament. We knew that he had potential to go to the NBA, but he was Texas Tech's best player by far. But again, you look at you look at Virginia, and you look at Texas Tech, and they're just a team. Both of these teams are full of good, solid players. None of them will jump. You see Kyle Guy, who won the player of the Final Four, the most outstanding player of the Final Four. You see him walking down the street, you wouldn't really know who he was. Ty Jerome, yeah, he's tall, but you wouldn't know who he was. And when you look at Virginia in their last few wins, it was all at the buzzer. Elite Eight against Purdue. 5 seconds, they were down 3. Final Four against Auburn, they were down 4 with 15 seconds. In the national championship, they were down 3 with 12 seconds. And whether it was Kyle Guy made free throws, Ty Jerome made 3, somebody got it done. You see, I don't like I'm a North Carolina fan. Everybody that listens to the pod knows that. And I hate those people that, well, since my team didn't win, I got to root for somebody in the conference. No, I'm not like that at all. I'm not like that. If my North Carolina loses, I'm not then going to go root for Duke. I'm not then going to go root for NC State or Virginia Tech. No. Now, I do root for whoever goes against Duke, but that's neither here nor there. But yesterday showed me that it's hard to keep down a great team, and it's wild because I knew even when Texas Tech made that run, and I think they were up like 4 or 5. It was like 2 minutes left in the second half. Everything in me was like, you know what? Yeah, Virginia's going to win this. Virginia just looks like the more complete team yesterday. Virginia looked like they were the better team. Might not have the better individual players, but better team. Kyle Guy did his thing. I think he had like 26 points, 24 points or something like that. DeAndre Hunter was struggling the first half. Came out the next half, dropped 22 on him. Ty Jerome hit clutch threes after clutch threes. You know, I last year, Virginia was the butt of everyone's joke, including myself. You're the only one seed to ever lose to a 16 seed. And on top of that, you lost to a 16 seed that's about an hour away from you in UMBC. Okay, maybe 2 hours away from you. It's like you can't. I didn't think that. You even heard in my. If you guys listen to the NBA, March Madness special, I didn't really have too much faith in Virginia. Now, yes, of course, I picked North Carolina to win, but I didn't think Virginia. I thought Virginia was going to make it to the Final Four, and then lose to us. But that's not what happened. We didn't even make it to the Elite Eight. Damn. But congratulations to the Virginia Cavaliers for winning the national championship this year. And congratulations to Texas Tech, too. It's the first time in men's program history that they've been to the national championship. Of course, the women's, for people that don't know, Cheryl Swoop led Texas Tech to a national championship. And shouts out to that program. I don't know how good they'll be next year because a lot of their players were seniors, and their best player, Jared Culver, more than likely is going to the draft. And just shouts out to Virginia, man. They did their thing. I can hate as much as I want because they're in the ACC, but I got to give it to them. And I knew the game changed in the second half when Texas Tech was making a big push. I think they were, like I said, they were up like 4 with 2 minutes left. And homie from Texas Tech, I don't remember his name, but he airballed. He airballed a 3 badly too. Like that joint barely even touched air. And boom, you go down. Ty Jerome hits a 3. Tied the game. I mean, down 2. Come back. Homie from Texas Tech takes the deepest, the Steph Curry deep 3. Hits the side of the backboard, like the where the NBA logo at. He hit. Came down, boom. Hit another left DeAndre Hunter, the probably only NBA except for Kyle Guy, one of the only NBA prospects on that team, wide open from 3. He hits it. Texas Tech, I said, oh, yeah, they lost. And yes, Texas Tech did come down and get an and 1, but I knew at that point that you didn't have momentum. They didn't have momentum. You didn't have momentum. But again, shouts out to Virginia for beating Texas Tech in the national championship, 85-77 in overtime, and they dominated in overtime. I think in overtime, Texas Tech only scored like 6 points. In fact, going into, I think it was 68-68? Yeah. Virginia was dominant this whole year. I'm gonna just keep it a bean with you. They were dominant this whole year. From clutch shooters like Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy to good all around players like DeAndre Hunter. The team they were one of the best defensive teams in the league or in the country. They deserved to win, and they won. They knocked down everybody they had to knock down. And in the back of my mind, yeah, I'm a North Carolina fan, but in the back of my mind, I kind of felt going into these playoffs, even though I didn't have too much faith in them, I kind of felt that they had enough to win it all. And they had enough. Let me not say that. I knew they had enough to win it all. I just didn't know if they were going to put it all together because Virginia has a history of choking in March. But I did know that if they put everything together, that this team is damn near unstoppable. This team, you remember last year? This team isn't as dominant as that Villanova team last year. That Villanova team was running through people like it was nobody's business. With Archie Diacono, dropping 30-something in the national championship? This Virginia team isn't that dominant, but this team was damn close. They can beat you in so many ways, and they showed it this tournament. One game, Kyle Guy couldn't freaking hit to save their life. So what did Ty Jerome and all them do? Just like go to the hole. This team isn't gonna beat you. This team's not gonna lose with no free throws. You're not gonna lose. They're not gonna lose because they miss free throws. They're gonna beat you because they make them. I don't know who's coming back next year. I know DeAndre Hunter more than likely ain't. Probably either Kyle Guy. Kyle Guy is probably going to be viewed as like an Archidiakono who got drafted. So I don't know who's coming back, and I don't know. I'm almost sure this team is not going to be as good like next year. But for right now, they are national champions, and you can't take that away from them. First time in program history, by the way. Shouts out to Virginia, man. And on the other side, in the game to me, actually, that was better, were the women's national championship. Baylor beat Notre Dame 82-81. Shouts out to Chloe Jackson. She was pretty much the hero of the game. She dropped 26 points and won the most outstanding player of the Final Four for the women's side. She's actually from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. For people that listen to the podcast that's not from the DMV, that's about 15 minutes from where I stay. So shouts out to her. But this game was like a seesaw. But like a broken seesaw. I remember tweeting, because Notre Dame looked shell-shocked. Notre Dame looked like they shouldn't even been on the same floor as Baylor in the first half. They were getting run out the gym. Even with Arike she was struggling in the first half. The whole team was struggling in the first half. Notre Dame, who's known for getting points in the paint and fast break points. They were number one in the nation at both of those stats. Were getting destroyed by Lauren Cox and Kalani Brown. And they were getting destroyed on the fast break points because they kept missing or they kept turning the ball over. They were down, as Notre Dame was down, by as much as 17 points. And 13 points in the second half. Like I said, I tweeted, Notre Dame doesn't even look like they deserve to be on the same floor as Baylor. And if you remember in my March Madness special, I did say that Baylor was going to win it all. But I also thought that UConn would make it. But they didn't. And then something clicked after halftime. No, after they were down, I think they went down 13 in the second half. Called time on something clicked. Arike, I'm gonna say Agumbowale. If I say your name wrong, I am so sorry. But Arike Agumbowale, whatever her name is, went off. She started hitting from everywhere. And then, unfortunately, Lauren Cox, who was one of the pillars to Baylor's front court, went down with a sprained MCL. And at that moment, the game switched. The game turned. Notre Dame put their pedal to the metal and roared back. I remember it was 74-74. And they just kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Notre Dame takes a 2-point lead. Baylor comes back. Notre Dame takes a 1-point lead because they miss a free throw. Baylor comes back and hits a shot. Chloe Jackson hit pretty much the game-winning layups, back to back. She had like a floater in the paint, and then she hit a go around free layup. And Kalani Brown dropped 20 points and scored in double figures for the 32nd time this season. And speaking of free throws, you saw In the men and women's Final Four, not even Final Four, in this whole tournament, you saw that free throws win you games and they lose you games. Look at Duke. RJ Barrett had an opportunity to tie the game up to go into overtime. He misses a free throw. They lose. Look at Purdue. Yeah, Carson Edwards turned the ball over, but people forget the play before that. Homie missed, not him, but the Purdue missed the free throw, which would have took them up by 4 instead of 3. Come down, Kyle Guy hits a 3. Yesterday, or for the women's Final Four. Hell, yesterday, 2 players from Texas Tech missed the back end of a 1-1. That's 2 points. The game went into overtime. And for the women's women's national championship, Orike Ogunbowale had a chance to tie the game, to take it to overtime at 81 or 80. It was 81-82. Well, it was 82-80, and then she gets fouled with like 3 seconds left. She goes to the line. She's an 82% free throw shooter. And the first one rims out. And you can see that took the life out of Notre Dame. Hell, she even crouched down, like all the wind in her sails just went out. Like, you know that feeling when you get punched in your stomach and all the wind at your body just that's what it looked like. And then same thing what RJ Barrett did. You try to miss the second one and you freaking make it. Now, one thing Notre Dame was doing, they were killing Baylor on offensive rebounds. And that's kind of what kept the game semi-close in the beginning. Like I said, I know they were down 17, but that's kind of what kept the game close. Ish. And, of course, them hidden shots. But you got to hit your free throws. Now, yeah, they're of course teenagers and 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, but they're still hoopers, and you got to make your free throws. And no, I'm not saying that you have to be perfect, but free throws come back to bite you. Hell, look at the North Carolina game when we played Auburn. Yes, Auburn beat us by like 17, but if you look closely at that game, we missed a lot of free throws. That could have been momentum changing or momentum halting free throws. Hell, you can even go back to when we played Duke in the ACC tournament. We lost by 1 point and missed 5 free throws. You see, a lot of people that watch the game don't think about it like that. But coaches do. Hell, I've talked to my college coaches a while, and that's one of the first things. If we lose, that's one of the first things he looks at is our free throw, just like how many free throws we missed compared to how much we lost by. We lost. All right. So when I played, we lost 8 games. I think we were like 30-8. Out of those 8 games, 6 of them we lost by 2 or 3 or less points. And in those games, we missed, I believe, more than 7 free throws. So let's think about that. We hit 4 of 3 free throws. We are 36-2. I'm not taking anything away from Orike because she's probably one of the best players Notre Dame women has ever had. Notre Dame in general has ever had. I'm not taking away from anybody to miss free throws. I'm just saying you got to hit them because they are so important. Especially when you look at the end of games. Again, yesterday Texas Tech missed 2 clutch free throws in under 2 minutes. Now, of course, it wasn't back-to-back, but they missed 2 clutch free throws, and they went into overtime. Imagine if they would have hit that. They would have won. The narrative would be a whole lot different for Texas Tech this morning. I don't know if Notre Dame would have beat Baylor in overtime, but I would have gave them a shot because they had all the momentum. And with Lauren Cox going out, they were just blitzing the paint because you just pretty much leave Kalani Brown, who is 6'7", but still, you leave her to fend off Notre Dame. And Notre Dame knew it. Notre Dame went right at him once Lauren went out. Gotta hit your free throws, people. Gotta hit your free throws. It gives you a better shot to win. That's just it. Hell, look at last thing I'm gonna say about this. 2 things actually. Look at the 2 teams, the 4 teams. I'm sorry, that were in the national championship. And this really drives home my point. Virginia, Texas Tech, Baylor, and Notre Dame. All 4 of those teams are in the top 4 in the nation. Both men's and women are in the top 4 in free throw percentage. I believe Virginia is number 1 or 2. Texas Tech, I believe, is 3 or 4. Baylor is number 1. And Notre Dame is number 3. It's not a coincidence that the 4 teams that were in the national championship this year, all 4 of them are in the top 4 in free throw percentage. And lastly, before we move on, shouts out to Kim Mulkey. You know, we talk about we talk about coaches like Coach K, Roy Williams, Coach Calipari, how even Gino, or Gino, whatever his last name is, from UConn. We don't really talk too much about Kim Mulkey. This is her 3rd national championship. I think there was like a image that went out. She wins every 7 years. I don't know. I don't know where she lands along the pantheon of great coaches. But I know that her name never gets spoken about. And if you think about it, there's not too many men's teams or men's coaches. Hell, Coach Calipari don't have 3 national championships. Let's let that sink in. So shouts out to Kim Mulkey and the Baylor Bears for winning the national championship 82-81. And shouts out to Virginia and Texas Tech. Virginia for beating Texas Tech 85-77. And before we move on completely from college basketball, let me talk about Sabrina Ionescu right quick. She's an outstanding player for Oregon. Oregon was the number 2 seed in their region, and they went all the way to the Final Four before losing to Baylor. And this is why you saw in the news that both the Notre Dame coach and the Baylor coach before the national championship was talking about how women need to get treated fairly, people need to understand that women aren't treated as equals, especially in the basketball world. And you look, Oregon lost, right, in the Final Four. Ionescu had, since that loss, she had 3 days to decide. 3 days to decide if she wanted to enter the draft or not. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, bro, that's 3 days. You need 3 days after 3 days to make a decision. Bro, think about it. You train the whole year. You and your teammates are training the whole year. Then you got a whole season. You're not really thinking about the draft because you need to think about the season and think about you need to win as many games as you can for the seeding. Then when you get to March, all you thinking is, okay, my main focus is every game, every team that we play because we're trying to win a national championship. You're telling me that pretty much an entire year of focusing on one thing, which is winning the championship, you can just, all right, we didn't win, whatever, I'm going to the draft. No. Hell, the NBA draft isn't until after the NBA finals, which gives most of the men's time to make a decision, find agents, do the whole long, hey, it's been real, I'm not coming back. Combines. You telling me you have 3 days? That's not fair, man. That would have been my unpopular topic of the week, but something else came up. But that's not fair. And she was projected to go number 1. She's like a walking triple double. She's a female version of a Kyle Anderson, just with a better jump shot. She can hoop. And you expect her, after losing in the Final Four, to make a decision within 3 days? Come on, NCAA. And WNBA. That ain't cool, man. That ain't cool at all. Speaking of WNBA, though, because we are moving on from college, and quickly, they just had a rebrand. They have a new logo, and they're pretty much rebranding themselves, the WNBA, which I think it's much needed. But a rebrand, and I'm not saying it won't, but a rebrand won't work if the structures to the house are the same. If the structures of the house aren't changed, if the structures of the house aren't reinforced. Because if you're dealing with the same BS people that you're dealing with, ain't no rebrand. I mean, you can put different clothes on a dude that stink. He's still gonna stink. I talked to a WNBA insider on the podcast before, Jasmine Brown, and we talked about that the WNBA needs a lot of work. From marketing, from branding, from treating their players fairly, from funding. And hopefully this rebrand it looks like the rebrand is a step in the right direction. But this thing that is the WNBA needs to be more than just rebranding from the top up. And I hope that this rebrand is the start of that change. I really do. And speaking of foundation, dang, you see how solid that transition was? Speaking of foundation, let's talk about the AAF. On paper, the AAF sounds great. The AAF is pretty much the G League to the NFL. The AAF has a great slew of players that the NFL can draft. The AFF is another way to do what you love, which is play football and make money. And here's a problem with the AAF though, and the problem with secondary leagues, pretty much. If you are not backed by the big boys, unfortunately, it's going to be really hard for you to succeed. Hell, look at the big three. Why is the big three so popular as it is? It's not funded by the NBA. But you know the players that are in the big three. You know Steven Jackson. You know Allen Iverson. You know all the retired players that are in the big three. Bashar McCant. Like, you know all these players. Al Harrington. While they are older and, they're vets, Tiago Mobley, or Mowgli. Tiago Mobley, whatever his name is. We know who they are. They have made an imprint in our hearts before in the NBA. And you can even look at the G League, who is funded by the NBA, because the NBA knows how important the G League is for developing some players. Hell, you can look at DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus Cousins tore his ACL. Before he went back to Golden State, he went to the G League. The Golden State sent him down to the G League so he can get some run-in with some players. Now, yes, not all of them are NBA players, but some of them are damn close to being in the NBA. Now you look at the AAF. Outside of Johnny Manziel, outside of Trent Richardson, who both, by the way, did not succeed. In fact, failed horribly in the NFL. They were pretty much the faces of the AAF, or the coaches, like Steve Spurrier. Everyone know he was coaching because he was pretty much the most recognizable coach. And as we speak today, unfortunately, the AAF has suspended all operations. The AAF pretty much is done. And it didn't even last an entire season. You see, the thing that the G League has going for it, like I said, is that it's funded by the NFL. I mean, the NBA. Because the NBA understands how important it is. The reason the Big Three works is because we know who's playing in the Big Three, because they've had an imprint on our hearts for back in the day. Everyone knows who Steven Jackson is. Hell, even Drew League players like Frank Nitti, he's in the Big Three now. Amari Stoudemire is in the Big Three. Big Baby Davis in the Big Three. We know who they are. You look at the AAF, you don't know who plays for the AAF. You don't know who the coaches are except for Steve Spurrier. In the NFL, they needed funding desperately. More funding from the NFL. And the NFL wasn't going to give it. Because they understand the thing about the NFL that's different from most other sports or most other leagues is that they want to be the only fish in the pond. They don't understand. And I guess you can kind of understand, but they don't understand that how integral the AAF could be. They just think, all right, we got the college. After college, you come on, let's go. The AAF could have been something special. And now how it looks, it's done. It is finished. And it didn't even last a season. I know that the talent wasn't the NFL, but how you couldn't expect it to be. Because if that's the case, the players would be in the NFL. If the players, most of the players in the G League were as good as players in the NBA, they would be in the NBA. But as of right now, the AAF is done. And it just sucks because I saw potential in it. Hell, a lot of people saw potential in it. You saw a lot of interest in former coaches and former players. You know, it was intriguing. But as of today, or as of last week, the AAF has suspended all its operations, and forcing players. It's pretty. So it pretty much sent out a memo, said all the NFL teams, you can take whatever player you want. Some players got drafted. You know, I mean, like got picked up for NFL teams. About like maybe 3 or 4 players got picked up. But other than that, it pretty much left the players hanging. Like, hey, you got to pay for your own way home. We're sorry, we ain't got no money for you no more. Like, it left them hanging, and it's sad. It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. But what can you do? You know, when you don't have funding, or as much funding as you need, what can you do? What can you do? And before we move out of football in general, let's talk about Antonio Brown real quick. So Antonio Brown was talking to a fan, a Steelers fan. Like, they were going back and forth on social media. And the Steelers fan, the fan, just tweeted a picture at Antonio Brown of JuJu Smith winning the MVP for the team. And then Antonio Brown pretty much went at JuJu. You know, JuJu cost us the season for fumbling. JuJu was asking me for advice. And then JuJu just came back like, bro, I used to respect you. I said nothing bad about you, bro. Why are you coming at me like that? And then Antonio Brown came back and put a DM that JuJu sent to him, you know, asking, you know, you're one of my favorite players. Can I have, you know, you have any advice? Stuff like that. Why, Antonio Brown? You know, this really, to me, shows one thing and one thing only. First of all, this does not reflect poorly on JuJu at all. In fact, this makes JuJu look bad. This makes JuJu look like an adult, a grown man. Because JuJu owned up to the fact that, yeah, he did fumble the ball. He owned up to that like 2 days after it happened. And no, JuJu didn't go back and forth with him. He was just like, I'm not about to go back and forth, you know, on social media, because, you know, some people can't really tell who the fool is at that point. So I respect JuJu in that sense. But this shows me one thing and one thing only, that Antonio Brown is not happy with the decision he made leaving Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is all Antonio Brown knew. Pittsburgh drafted him. Pittsburgh is one. You know, yes, Antonio Brown of course is the biggest reason for his success, but Pittsburgh is the only place he saw success. Pittsburgh is a great organization. Yeah, his relationship with Ben Roethlisberger and Big Ben's relationship with a lot of players was sour, but Antonio Brown misses Pittsburgh. Because there's no reason why. First of all, you forced your way out. You demanded a trade. You demanded it. So there's no reason why you should be going back and forth with Pittsburgh fans. You ultimately got what you wanted. You wanted a new contract. You wanted a bigger deal. And you wanted to be out of Pittsburgh. One of the three has happened already, and all three is going to happen. You're with the Raiders. That's what you wanted. And right now it looks like that's clearly not what he wanted, because it looks like he's not happy. Because why would you go back and forth with people if you're happy? That just it doesn't make sense to me. So this really shows me that AB is not thrilled about the decision he made, and he misses Pittsburgh, and that doesn't really bode well for Oakland, especially when they start losing, because they're not going to be winning all like that. Their defense still is trash. Their offensive line still ain't that good. They're not going to be winning that much. Yeah, AB might do what he does, lead the league in receptions, lead the league in reception yards, but they're not going to be winning as much as he hopes. And maybe he knows that. Maybe he looks at the roster, and he knows, yeah, we're not going to be winning that much. And maybe he's starting to rethink, damn, did I make the right decision? Good off. Like JuJu said, and this is for a lot of people, keep your emotions off of social media, especially when they're high, because you're destined to say something that you probably shouldn't say. So the NBA season ends this week, and you hear a lot about playoff seedings because they're still going on. You have 3 teams. I think you have Charlotte, you have the Pistons, and you have the Heat fighting for the last spot in the East. And you're about to see a different side of a lot of teams. Some teams are going to see the same side. Like, look at Golden State. Golden State has been saying all year, we're waiting for the playoffs. Hell, it seems like after Game 2, they pretty much have been waiting for the playoffs. You're about to see, just like last year, we're about to see a whole nother side. A whole nother side of Golden State. Like, when they're locked in, they are unstoppable. But one thing that the Golden State Warriors have forced us to do is cherish little things in the playoffs. Because pretty much, now of course anything can happen. Basketball, anything can happen. But it's almost a foregone conclusion that Golden State will at least be in the finals. Like, more than likely win it. But what Golden State Warriors have forced the fans to do is remember little things about the regular season. Because we know Golden State is dominant. We know that they're heads and shoulders better than any team. But there's a couple things I'll remember from this season. I'll remember this is one of the closest MVP races that we've ever had between James Harden and Giannis Antetokounmpo. This NBA season will remind me that, damn, Russell Westbrook is good. You know, there was a poll that came out saying, you know, all about 120 NBA players did an anonymous poll, and they asked who the most overrated player was. And it was tied between Russell Westbrook and Draymond Green. And it's funny because look at those two players compared to the league, and they are abrasive players. They will get in your face. They don't give a damn about anything you got to say. They come hard every night. and they play a brand of basketball that isn't flashy. Draymond Green is a walking triple double, but he ain't about to drop 50 points. He'll give you 10, 10, and 10. Draymond Green is one of the best defensive players and one of a grinder. Russell Westbrook is completely opposite of Draymond Green. He will give you a 50-point triple-double. Yes, he's a grinder, and yes, he's a flashy player too. Draymond Green Russell Westbrook is a stat stuffer. Draymond Green isn't. Draymond Green just does what he has to do. So it was funny that it was understandable, but still funny that NBA players would call them two, as in Russell Westbrook and Draymond Green, the most overrated players. And back to the original point, another thing I would remember about this season is that Russell Westbrook, yet again, for the third consecutive season, averages yet another triple-double. I remember saying to myself, yeah, when KD left, yeah, he's about to average a triple-double just this season and win the MVP. Not in my wildest imagination did I think he would be able to do this for 3 straight years. Now that I think that he would record the first 2020 game since Wilt Chamberlain. Russell Westbrook, he has his faults. Hell, every player has their faults. But one thing you cannot deny is that Russell Westbrook is a great player for what he is. Same as Draymond Green. He's a great player for what he is. Another thing I'm going to remember when Paul George was in the MVP race? I'm not taking away the fact that Paul George got injured. I'm not taking away the fact that Paul George plays with Russell Westbrook, who, like I said, has some faults, and sometimes, especially when he came back from the injury, Russell Westbrook takes a lot of shots. But Paul George, this is probably the best season he's ever had. Hell, he was third in MVP, fighting for second a lot of nights. And last thing I'll say before I move on is, remember when Houston was struggling? Remember they were 8-14? And many people, including myself, were saying that Houston was one of the most disappointing teams in the league. You look today, Houston has a good opportunity to not only win, 58, 59 games, but they have a great opportunity for being in the second spot in the West. And that leads me to my next point. And I'm going to do it. I was thinking about doing it as a special, but I don't feel like doing all that since the season's about to end. And that's my NBA awards. I did this in the midway through the season, but these are my awards at the end of the season. For Coach of the Year, I got to go to Mike Budenholzer. First of all, nobody, including myself, expected. I knew that the Bucks were going to be good, but I didn't think the Bucks would be the best, damn near arguably the best team in the league good. Won 60 games. Have potentially the MVP in Giannis. And many people are picking the Bucks to beat Golden State in the finals. Like the Bucks are no fluke. And it's crazy how pretty much the only difference from last year to this year is Brooke Lopez and the coach. The Bucks won 60 games. They were projected to win like 48, 47. That's coaching right there. Yeah, that's Giannis being great, but that's also coaching. And it would be dumb of me. Yeah, you can look at Denver's coach and maybe Steve Kerr. But nah. Yeah. Mike Budenholzer. I'm gonna give, of course, the usual awards, the most improved, the MVP, but I'm gonna give some different awards. I'm gonna give the least. How am I gonna put this? I'm gonna get the team that disappointed me the most. Now, for me, I could say that it was the Wizards. I'm a Wizards fan, yeah, but I'm gonna be objective. And the most disappointing team to me were the Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics were projected to win more than 60 games. The Boston Celtics were projected to go to the finals. The Boston Celtics, a lot of people had them beating Golden State. The Celtics had Kyrie coming back, Gordon Hayward coming back, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Morris, Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier. They are stacked. But as we sit here today, they're in the 5th seed? I don't know if it's they don't like playing with Kyrie. I don't know if it's players want to get their own, but they've struggled this entire year. There's no way in heaven or hell this team should be in the 5th or 4th seed. That's crazy. That is crazy. The most dominant team or the most surprising team were the Bucks. Again, I knew you had Giannis, but I didn't expect them to win 60 games and to look like they could be prohibited challengers for Golden State. Yeah. The most improved player, and this one was tough. It was between Pascal Siakam for Toronto and D'Angelo Russell, but I had to give it to Pascal. And one thing that I will remember is that Pascal Siakam last year could barely dribble the damn ball. He was barely getting playing time last year. This year, this man is dropping 40-point games. 40-point games. He's bringing the ball. Like, I'm not taking anything away from D'Angelo Russell, but Pascal Siakam has made a leap that I did not expect. You can see D'Angelo Russell having a solid year on a new team after the stuff that happened with the Lakers and, his first year in Brooklyn dealing with injuries. You can kind of see that he could right the ship. I didn't see Pascal Siakam coming at all. And that's why, to me, he gets the most improved player of the year. Defensive player of the year, I got to give it to Paul George. Paul George, see, the Thunder have been struggling, especially going down the stretch. But one thing that has been solid is their defense. And Paul George is the leader of that. Paul George is one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. Top 5 at least. Could be number 1 right now. And if you think about it, Rudy Gobert hasn't really been spectacular. Kawhi Leonard hasn't been spectacular. Draymond Green hasn't been spectacular. Not saying they haven't been good, but they haven't been spectacular this year. Paul George has been spectacular on the defensive side of the ball. To me, he's a clear-cut winner for Defensive Player of the Year. Sixth Man of the Year? Man, I wanted to give it to D Rose, man. But Lou Williams has lapped him. Lou Williams became the all-time leading bench scorer of all time. Yeah, no, they got to be Lou Will. Got to be Lou Will. I have to say again that the Wizards should have been one of the most disappointing teams this year. Freaking bums. Oh, God. There was so much that went wrong with the Wizards, man. I'm going to talk about it soon. And lastly, the award of awards, the MVP. It's down to 2 people, James Harden and Giannis Antetokounmpo. One thing that I can say for each player, Giannis is, to me, one of the top 3, at least right now, top 3 players in the league. Top 2. I don't think he's to me, the best player in the NBA right now is Kevin Durant. But Giannis might be second. If not second, he's top 5. Giannis is the best player on the best team, record wise. Giannis is like 80% from the field inside the paint and has like the most dunks ever recorded in a season. Giannis has been great his whole year. Giannis is a statistical freak. And honestly, he could be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year as well. He'll probably be second or third for me. I mean, you look at James Harden. James Harden was on that 8-14 team. And while Giannis is the most important person for the Bucks, James Harden is the most important thing that the Rockets have. Chris Paul went out, missed a lot of time. Clint Capella went out, missed a lot of time. Aaron Gordon missed time. And the only thing that James Harden did was go 30-plus games of 30 or more points, which hasn't been done since Wilt Chamberlain. He has multiple 50-point games. He has multiple 60-point games this year. James Harden is one of the greatest offensive weapons of all time. And because of what he had to do for his team, with Chris Paul being out and Clint Capella being out, and what he's still doing now, and how important and integral he is to the Rockets' success, James Harden is my MVP. I'm not taking, and this is why I said this has been the closest MVP race ever, if you ask me. Because I don't know. I'm not mad if Giannis wins. I'm not mad if James Harden wins. And I'm not saying, he was robbed. No. Both of these players are deserving. But I have to go with James Harden. Not only did he go 30-plus games with more than 30 points. The man is averaging like 35 points a game. That's 7 more than the next player, which is Paul George, I think, at 28. And he doesn't look like, and he's not slowing down. Again, this is one of the hardest races that I remember in a while. But James Harden is my MVP. And speaking of basketball, let's get to the unpopular topic of the week.
Welcome to the
Unpopular Opinions.
Unpopular opinions.
Have unpopular opinions.
Unpopular opinions.
Okay, so what's an unpopular opinion?
Unpopular opinions.
To utter such blasphemy. He's got the nerve, the audacity, the unmitigated gall to echo such blasphemous nonsense. Just blasphemy.
So Kyle Korver came out with a piece on the Players Tribune called Privileged. And he talked about when he was teammates with Thabo Sefolosha. And when Thabo Sefolosha got attacked or was in the club and was pretty much attacked by the police. He was injured, which cost him the rest of the season. He sued, pretty much did a civil case against them, and they won. And Kyle Korver was talking about how the first thing he didn't think was, damn, the police attacked my friend or my teammate. He was thinking, what was Thabo doing at the club? And the article was pretty much saying how he has a lot of privileges, which is title or privileges for being white in the NBA. You see what happened with was it Sterling Brown in Milwaukee with the cops? Kyle Korver knows that wouldn't have happened to him because he's white. The same thing that happened to Thabo Sefolosha wouldn't have happened to Kyle Korver because he's white. Now, on the contrary, Kyle Korver doesn't look like a lot of the players in the NBA because he's white. He looks like the fans. Because the NBA is like 98% African American. You know, I did I think the last podcast I did, All Black Everything. I was joined by the men of the 1,000 Jumpers podcast. And we talked about being an African American athlete. And how tough it is to even though some people are athletically more dominant, physically more dominant, sometimes more cerebral in how we think, it's still harder for us to get in the door. And we're still viewed in a negative light. So my unpopular topic of the week is I want to applaud Kyle Korver. You see, yes, all the African Americans in the world can rally together and change something or try to change something. But unfortunately, I don't think that it takes more. Hell, you look at Colin Kaepernick's situation. Colin Kaepernick is not in the league anymore. All because he took a knee, Not because he was going against the flag. He took a knee to highlight the injustices that African Americans deal with on a regular basis. By cops and just by people who are racist. It wasn't against the flag. It wasn't against America. And now Colin Kaepernick is pretty much blackballed out the league. Do you think he would have been blackballed out the league if Aaron Rodgers took a knee? If Tom Brady took a knee? If J.J. Watt took a knee? Do you think that him and Eric Berry would be black stains of the league if Adam Thielen took a knee? If Alex Smith took a knee? I commend Kyle Korver because even in the piece, he says it. It takes more than white people to just stand by and say nothing. He understands, and it's sad, but he understands the privileges that were allotted to him before he was even born, because he's white, and the disadvantages that are put on African Americans because we're black before we're even born. Before African Americans are born, we are off rip 2 steps behind Caucasians at birth. And Kyle Korver understands, or in the piece he understands, that it's going to take a lot more white people standing up against injustices than black people. No, Kyle Korver ain't about to be no Malcolm X or anything like that. But I respect Kyle Korver for that privileged piece. It was a great piece. I read it top to bottom. It was eye-opening. And it was eye-opening to the fact that I knew most of this shit that was going on. But maybe, just maybe, this piece can open some white people's eyes. And you know the sad thing about it? Is I think that white people know. White people know. They know that they if I'm walking down the street and a Caucasian's walking down the street and one of us gets stopped, 9 times out of 10, I'm the one that's getting stopped. And Kyle Korver is pretty much saying, wake up, white people. Because you can be as great as LeBron James. You can be as great as Kevin Durant. You can be as great as Antonio Brown. You can be as great as Odell Beckham Jr. And you will still be 2 steps behind a Caucasian in society. And for lack of a better term, that's fucked up. All right, man. Let's get to the game of the week.
Game blouses.
I call game.
Respect the game.
It's game time. It's the game of the week.
On Wednesday, April 10th, a legend will be retiring. The Miami Heat will be playing the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I don't know. They have a great opportunity, as in the Miami Heat, to make the playoffs. They're gonna have to pretty much win all their games, and Pistons probably gonna have to lose both games, and Charlotte's gonna have to lose both of their games. So it's a long shot for Miami to make it, especially after their loss the other night. But if they don't make the playoffs, Dwayne Wade will be retiring from the game of basketball. D Wade will go down, in my eyes, as the third greatest shooting guard to ever play the game of basketball. The legacy that D Wade has left on the NBA, the legacy that he left on Miami, the legacy that he left on other players is unprecedented. You look at a lot of players today, and they say, they looked up to D Wade. LeBron James credits, he wouldn't be a champion if it wasn't for D Wade. Yeah, so did Chris Bosh. But LeBron James said he wouldn't be a champion if it wasn't for D Wade. D Wade came into the league in 2003 with LeBron James, with Carmelo Anthony, with Chris Bosh. And he will go down as the second best piece in that draft. Of course, you have LeBron, number one, but nobody thought D Wade was going to be better than Chris Bosh. Nobody thought D Wade was going to be better than Carmelo Anthony, who was just coming off of a national championship. Hell, you ask somebody that's a Miami fan. It's called Wade County for a reason. Miami is D Wade. D Wade is Miami. We can talk about the stint for Chicago and the stint with Cleveland that lasted all of 2 seasons combined. But D Wade is Miami. And the game of the week is Miami Heat versus the Brooklyn Nets, which is tomorrow, Wednesday, April 2nd. I could have done the game tonight, which is Miami Heat against the Philadelphia 76ers, because that's D Wade's last home game, at least in the regular season. But my game of the week is the Heat versus the Nets, Wednesday, April 10th, because that could very likely be the last time we see Dwayne Wade lace him up. D Wade is a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. His name will be retired in the rafters. And all in all, like I said, D Wade will go down as the third greatest small shooting guard of all time. I'm an Allen Iverson fan. Allen Iverson is my favorite player of all time. Allen Iverson is not even close to as good as D Wade was. D Wade's prime was arguably the best player in the league, and his prime was in the same same as LeBron's prime. There was like a 2-3 years when we were debating, is D Wade and who was better between D Wade and LeBron. That shows you how good he was. I don't know, and I don't think, honestly, that the Heat will make the playoffs. So if they don't, I want to say thank you, D Wade, for being the greatest Miami Heat to ever play, and for being one of the greatest shooting guards to ever lace it up. And there you have it, people, man. That's episode, what, 42 of the Unpopular Podcast. I want to thank you guys for listening. Again, I will be back to Mondays next week. Oh, man, and them visuals for YouTube is coming soon, man. Coming soon. I'm cooking back here, man. I really am. I want to thank you guys for rocking with me. Thank you for all the listens, all the views. Thank you for the people that hit me up saying, hey, man, great podcast. I want to appreciate it, man. I am eternally grateful. I am humble, and thank you. Again, this is the Unpopular Podcast, and until next time, much love.
It's like 2 o'clock in the studio. Backed up on the leaks, man. My shit crashed, but I'm back at you niggas, though. You know, I guess this 55,000. So we gonna do it like this. Hustle, nigga. 1 take 2. Look, Mac 11 on my dresser drawer. Model bitches like Nipsey, what's the weapon for? Niggas tryna take, I give them nothing less than war. So it's understood there is no explanation for it. Put the box in concrete, then put the safe in floor. Extra thick carpet, that's what we laid it for. Young niggas getting money's what I make it for. Play this out your Range Rover and Mercedes door. I graduated from having haters, now I see it all as fake love, so don't congratulate us. And thank God for my imagination. I seen a vision, I'm in it, and now I'm after greatness. I know that God got me, so I practice patience. Most of the time I look inside and find the answers waiting. I'm trying to change my life, but it's aggravating. Making the same mistakes twice, I'm shackled to Satan. So, let's make a toast to the real niggas. Self-made success, know how it feel, nigga. Now raise your glass to the real women. You know the one who man in jail, but she still with him. Out here on her own, but she deal with it. So I'm gon' tip my S down, cause I'm feeling ya. I represent that any means necessary. Chopper in the window pane, lifestyle legendary. Been treated a lot of ways, it was never fair. So we gon' shoot before we march like February. And they don't like it when I rap like that. They'd rather I talk about the crime that's always black on black and say neighborhood of 60 crip in every rap, so they could play my tape in court and try to lock me up for that. But I'm cool. Tell them judges, look, I'm never going back. It's a marathon, nigga, run a lap. 56,000. Money in, money in, money in. No motherfucking money out, nigga. Alright, that's it, neighbor.